Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel monsters kept changing the meaning of a difficult duel. Sometimes Yugi faced a stronger deck. Sometimes his opponent knew what he was going to play before he played it. Several duels placed another person's life behind every decision. By the final episode, the hardest opponent left was the one who had shared his cards, his body, and his thoughts for the entire series. If you enjoy these longer Yu-Gi-Oh! Essays, subscribe. There are many more stories from Duel Monsters that deserve this kind of detailed look. This list stays inside the television continuity of Duel Monsters, including the anime original Virtual World and Waking the Dragons arcs. The duels are presented in chronological order because Yugi's hardest victories make more sense as a progression. Each opponent takes away something he previously relied on. Pegasus takes away secrecy. Strings takes away the value of attacking. Kaiba takes away time and resources. Noah begins with nearly every numerical advantage. Raphael attacks the Pharaoh's confidence. Adam eventually takes away the second mind inside the Millennium Puzzle. The methods Yugi uses to survive those duels slowly create the duelist who can win the last one. Pegasus is the first opponent who makes normal strategy feel almost useless. Every duelist needs some private space. A face-down card matters because the opponent does not know what it is. A card held in the hand creates several possible moves. Pegasus removes that uncertainty with the Millennium Eye. He sees Yugi's cards, hears his thoughts, and knows which trap is waiting before he commits to an attack. Yugi enters the final Duelist Kingdom match facing the creator of the game, inside Pegasus Castle, under rules Pegasus helped design, while the Souls of Solomon, Kaiba, and Mokuba remain in his control. The duel already carries enough pressure before the Millennium Eye begins reading every plan. Pegasus also has a deck built to exploit the advantage. Toon World turns familiar monsters into versions Yugi struggles to attack. Toon Summon Skull and Blue Eyes. Toon Dragon can avoid the normal exchange of monsters and strike Yugi directly. When Yugi begins solving that problem, Pegasus moves the duel into a shadow game and introduces a second layer of pressure. The younger Yugi cannot endure the darkness for long. The duel becomes a physical test while Pegasus continues receiving information from the Millennium Eye. Yugi's answer is the Mind Shuffle. Yugi and the Pharaoh switch control while choosing cards, allowing one of them to place a card without the other knowing what it is. Pegasus can read the mind currently controlling the body, yet that mind no longer contains the entire plan. It is a clever solution because Yugi does not suddenly overpower the Millennium Eye. He finds a small gap in how the Eye gathers information and builds a strategy around two people sharing one body. Pegasus eventually intensifies the shadow game until the younger Yugi collapses, leaving the Pharaoh to finish alone. Joey, Tay, and Tristan help block the Millennium Eye's view, giving the Pharaoh the privacy that any ordinary duelist would have received automatically. Pegasus responds by summoning Relinquished and later Thousand Eyes Restrict, a monster capable of absorbing Yugi's monsters and freezing the rest beneath the gaze of its many eyes. Yugi Ritual summons Magician of Black Chaos, only to watch Thousand Eyes Restrict take control of it. The final counter comes from Kuribo and Multiply. Thousand Eyes Restrict absorbs the multiplying Kuribos, and the small creatures cover its eyes from the inside. Magician of Black Chaos is released from its paralysis and destroys Pegasus's monster. Pegasus reaches 0 life points, and Yugi wins the duel that had been designed to give Pegasus knowledge of every relevant decision. I think Pegasus belongs among Yugi's hardest opponents because Yugi needs more than one kind of victory. He has to solve Toon World, protect his thoughts, survive a shadow game, and defeat a monster that uses his own cards against him. He also needs help. The friendship speeches in Duel Monsters can become easy to dismiss because the series uses them so often. Here the friendship has a mechanical purpose. 3 people stand between the Millennium Eye and Yugi's mind. Pegasus loses the one advantage around which his entire confidence was built. The duel against Strings in Battle City creates a completely different problem. Strings barely speaks and hardly behaves like an independent opponent. Marik controls him through the Millennium Rod and builds the duel around Slipher the Sky Dragon. Yugi is effectively dueling a remote body whose deck has been arranged to sustain an Egyptian god. Revival Jam keeps returning after destruction. Jam Defender redirects attacks toward it. Card of Safe Return rewards every revival by forcing Strings to draw 3 cards. Those extra cards increase Slipher's attack by 1,000 points each because Slipher's strength depends on the number of cards in its controller's hand. The deck creates a cycle in which defense, card draw, and attack power feed one another. Destroying Revival Jam helps Strings. Leaving it alone gives Slifer a permanent shield. Yugi summons Buster Blader and tries to fight through the field, although direct force has no realistic path through Slifer. The God's Second Mouth reduces the attack or defense of each monster Yugi summons by 2,000 points and destroys weaker monsters immediately. Slifer controls the board before its normal attack even begins. This is the first duel where Yugi has to accept that defeating the main monster is unnecessary. Brain Control gives him the opening. Yugi takes control of Revival Jam while it is regenerating, causing the monster to return on his side of the field. Slifer's automatic effect attacks the newly summoned Revival Jam and destroys it. Revival Jam returns. Card of Safe Return activates for Strings and makes him draw 3 more cards. Slifer attacks the revived monster again. The sequence repeats until Strings has no cards left in his deck and loses by deck out. Yugi wins without destroying Slifer or reducing Strings' life points to 0. He turns every part of Marik's combination against the person controlling it. Revival Jam's immortality becomes a trap. Card of Safe Return changes from an advantage into forced overdrawing. Slifer's automatic attack becomes the engine that keeps the loop moving. The duel is difficult because Yugi's usual goal has been removed. He cannot win by reaching the powerful monster, so he attacks the structure holding it up. That lesson returns in larger form against Kaiba during the Battle City semifinal. Kaiba knows Yugi's habits, owns one of the Egyptian gods, and has spent the tournament preparing for this exact match. He also has the resources to force the duel into the shape he wants. XYZ Dragon Cannon gives him removal power. Obelisk the Tormentor gives him a direct answer to Slifer. His 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons remain the strongest personal connection in his deck, and every part of the duel moves toward placing them on the field. Yugi summons the 3 face card Knights, Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight to build the tributes needed for Slifer. Kaiba summons Obelisk. Their god cards collide and trigger visions of ancient Egypt, while the actual duel remains extremely technical. Kaiba keeps placing Yugi in positions where a single missing card ends the match. He eventually summons all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons and uses final attack orders to reduce both decks to 3 cards while forcing every monster into attack position. The card strips away the possibility of waiting. Each player knows that the duel has only a few draws left. Kaiba fuses his 3 dragons into Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Yugi has Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon on the field, yet neither can survive the attack. The winning sequence begins with Double Spell. Yugi copies Kaiba's Monster Reborn to revive Buster Blader, then copies Kaiba's Polymerization to fuse Buster Blader with Dark Magician. Dark Paladin appears with an effect that gains attack power from the dragons on the field and in the graveyard. Kaiba still attacks with Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon after increasing its power with Absorb Spell. Yugi activates Diffusion, returning the Ultimate Dragon to the Fusion deck and bringing the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons back to Kaiba's field. The attack stops because the attacking monster has disappeared. Dark Paladin rises to 900 attack points due to the dragons now surrounding it. On Yugi's turn, he pays 1,000 life points to activate Diffusion Wave Motion, allowing Dark Paladin to attack every monster Kaiba controls. Dark Paladin destroys all 3 Blue Eyes and ends the duel. The finish is memorable because Yugi builds it from Kaiba's own moves. Kaiba supplies Monster Reborn and Polymerization. Kaiba fills the field and graveyard with dragons that strengthen Dark Paladin. Final attack orders leaves Yugi with the exact small group of cards needed for the finish. Kaiba plays an excellent duel and loses control of the resources he created. Among Yugi's conventional one-on-one matches, this may be the hardest. Pegasus has supernatural access to Yugi's mind, and Marik uses shadow games. Kaiba reaches the same level of danger through preparation, pressure, and a deck designed to defeat Yugi in public. Noah's duel begins from a position that would usually be treated as unrecoverable. Kaiba has already lost after Noah uses Makuba against him. Yugi takes Kaiba's place and continues the existing duel with only 400 life points against Noah's 7,400. Noah's total soon climbs higher, eventually reaching 10,000 while Yugi falls to 100. Every turn also allows Noah to turn another one of Yugi's friends to stone. Yugi inherits Kaiba's remaining cards and Kaiser Seahorse as a deck master, although he also inherits the damage Kaiba has already taken. Noah uses Shinado, King of a higher plane as his deckmaster. When Shinado destroys a defense position monster, Yugi's life points are cut in half and Noah gains the amount lost. His spirit monsters return to the hand, allowing Spring of Rebirth to keep restoring Noah's life points. The duel creates an ugly combination of a widening numerical lead and a shrinking amount of time. Cyberjar gives Yugi his first serious opening by clearing the field and forcing both players to draw 5 cards. Noah's spirit monsters cannot be special summoned by the effect, leaving him exposed. Yugi summons Dark Magician and lands a direct attack. Noah rebuilds, removes the Dark Magician, and drives Yugi down to 100 life points. Yugi later brings out Dark Magician Girl and continues attacking. Noah repeatedly restores his total until the gap becomes 100 against 10,000. The final combination uses Kaiba's deck as fully as Yugi's own. Card of Sanctity fills the hands. Yugi gains access to Kaiba's 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in Polymerization, then fuses the dragons into Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Quick Attack allows the newly summoned monster to attack immediately and destroy Hinokagu Tsuchi, lowering Noah from 10,000 to 8,300. Yugi follows with Defusion, splitting the Ultimate Dragon back into 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. The 3 dragons attack Noah directly for a combined 9,000 points and end the duel. The numbers make Noah one of Yugi's greatest comebacks. The deeper difficulty comes from the way Noah has corrupted Kaiba's family relationships. Yugi wins by treating Kaiba's cards with the respect Noah never gives Kaiba himself. Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl begin the comeback. Kaiba's Blue Eyes finish it. The duel combines 2 decks belonging to rivals who spend most of the series refusing to admit how well their strategies can work together. The Battle City final against Yami Marik adds a moral problem to every tactical problem. The younger Yugi's body is tied to the Pharaoh's life points. The remaining good part of Marik is tied to Yami Marik's side. A normal victory appears capable of erasing the person Yugi wants to save. Yami Marik enters the duel with the Winged Dragon of Ra in a shadow game designed to make every loss of life points physically meaningful. Ra goes through several forms and repeatedly returns from the graveyard. Slifer falls. Yugi summons Obelisk and activates its infinite attack ability by tributing monsters, yet Ra survives the confrontation. Marik also uses Egyptian god Slime as a recurring wall. Every time Yugi appears to clear the field, Marik rebuilds around Ra and uses the god's phoenix form to remove Yugi's monsters. Kaiba's Fiend Sanctuary becomes crucial. It summons a Metal Fiend token capable of reflecting battle damage, buying Yugi the turn Kaiba calculated he needed. Yugi eventually gets Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl onto the field together and activates Ragnarok. The spell removes Yugi's monsters from play and banishes every monster on Marik's field, hand, deck, and graveyard. Ra finally disappears. Yami Marik remains with 1 life point because his existence has been reduced to a tiny portion of Marik's body. The good Marik regains control, turns against the personality that has controlled him, and surrenders the duel. That final surrender reduces the last life point to 0 and removes Yami Marik instead. Yugi wins the Battle City tournament, gains Ra, and saves Marik. This duel is difficult in a way the final card sequence cannot fully express. Yugi has enough power to destroy Marik several times. He needs a victory that removes the correct person. The duel keeps punishing him for making progress because every reduction in Marik's life points appears to push good Marik closer to disappearance. Yugi's task is to survive Ra long enough for Marik to fight from inside his own body. The final move belongs to Marik, even though Yugi creates the chance for him to make it. Raphael earns his place here because he is the only duelist in Duel Monsters to defeat the Pharaoh cleanly in a major on-screen match and later face him again. Their first duel ends after the Pharaoh activates the Seal of Orichalcos, sacrifices his own monsters through Catapult Turtle, and loses to Guardian Eidos. Yugi gives up his soul to protect him. The rematch carries the memory of that failure into every decision. Raphael's Guardian deck is difficult to break because he treats the graveyard as a moral boundary. He equips Guardians with their corresponding weapons, protects them through backup Gardna, and builds his field without casually throwing monsters away. During the rematch, he activates the seal himself and begins violating the principle that once gave his deck its stability. Guardian Eidos reaches 7, 0 attack points by banishing monsters from Yugi's graveyard. Yugi survives through Electromagnetic Turtle, summons Dark Magician, and uses the Eye of Timaeus to create Amulet Dragon. Amulet Dragon removes spell cards from Yugi's graveyard, rises to 5,300 attack points, and destroys Eidos. Eidos' destruction summons Guardian Dreadscythe. Dreadscythe gains power from every monster in Raphael's graveyard and can preserve itself by forcing Raphael to discard a card. Raphael destroys his own remaining monsters to strengthen it, pushing the creature to 5,500 attack points. Yugi drops to 300 life points and later reaches only 10. Yugi uses Underworld Circle to turn the duel into a battle fought through the graveyards. He summons Dark Magician Girl and combines her with the Eye of Timaeus to create Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. Her effect can destroy Dreadscythe, although Raphael keeps discarding cards to bring it back. The final answer requires Yugi to attack the emotional structure behind the monster. Guardian Eidos guides Raphael, and the power of the Claw of Hermos helps break Dreadscythe's supposed immortality. Raphael uses Soul Charge to bring his guardians out of the graveyard, paying 500 life points for each of the 3 monsters. He has only 1/200 remaining, so the 500-point cost ends the duel. Yugi defeats Raphael by helping him recover the bond that the seal twisted. This is still a genuine duel victory. Yugi survives at 10 life points, removes Dreadscythe's protection, and forces Raphael to confront what his strategy has become. I think Raphael is one of the few opponents who attacks the Pharaoh as a duelist and as a person with equal success. The first match proves that the Pharaoh's confidence can become recklessness. The rematch requires him to win while refusing the shortcut that caused the original loss. Dartz pushes the Waking the Dragons rules farther than anyone else. Yugi begins the duel beside Kaiba, and their combined strength still struggles to reach Dartz. The Seal of Orichalcos expands through multiple layers. Orichalcos Kyutora absorbs battle damage. Orichalcos Shunoros gains attack based on the damage Kyutora prevented, while Orichalcos Dexia and Orichalcos Aristeros adjust themselves to counter attacks and defenses. Dartz also creates Mirror Knight tokens carrying the souls of Yugi, Joey, Mai, and Pegasus. Attacking the field means attacking the people Yugi wants to rescue. Kaiba eventually loses his soul, leaving Yugi alone. Yugi activates Legend of Heart and transforms the 3 legendary dragons into Legendary Knight Timaeus, Legendary Knight Critias, and Legendary Knight Hermos. Their effects let them draw power from monsters, spells, and traps associated with Yugi, Joey, and Kaiba. Critias uses Mirror Force to destroy Dartz' Orichalcos formation. Dartz answers by summoning Divine Serpent Gay, whose attack is treated as infinite. Yugi's life points reach 0 when Gay destroys Timaeus, yet Relay Soul allows the duel to continue as long as Dark Magician Girl remains on the field. The winning move has to produce strength equal to infinity. Hermos redirects an attack and gains power through the 3 Magnet Warriors. Critias redirects that attack again through Attack Guidance Barrier. The repeated redirection creates an infinite loop of increasing attack power. Timaeus absorbs Critias and Hermos, forming Timaeus the Knight of Destiny with infinite attack of its own. Knight of Destiny attacks Divine Serpent Gay. Both monsters are destroyed, and Dartz loses because his life points were already at 0, and Gay was the only force sustaining him. This is probably the most exaggerated duel in the series, although its internal problem is clear. Dartz has moved beyond large numbers. Yugi cannot solve infinity with another ordinary increase. He needs the abilities represented by all 3 chosen duelists and turns their interaction into a loop that can reach the same impossible value. The duel begins with Yugi and Kaiba barely cooperating and ends with Yugi combining the powers connected to himself, Kaiba and Joey, into one monster. The duel against Yami Bakura near the end of the Memory World arc is quieter and extremely important. The Pharaoh is fighting Zork in ancient Egypt, leaving the younger Yugi to face Bakura in the present. For most of the series, an audience can use Yugi to describe both duelists inside the puzzle. This duel removes that convenience. Yugi Muto has no Pharaoh waiting to take control when the field becomes dangerous. Bakura's strategy pressures Yugi's deck and graveyard while the larger battle for the world continues elsewhere. Yugi uses cards that belong clearly to his own identity: Marshmallow, Silent Magician, Silent Swordsman, and Ghidorah the Dragon of Destruction. Silent Swordsman grows as turns pass. Turn Jump accelerates that growth and gives Yugi a way to create strength through patience, rather than immediately summoning one famous ace. Bakura keeps filling the field and tries to lock Yugi out through his own graveyard-based combinations. Yugi tributes Marshmallow and Silent Magician to summon Ghidorah. By paying half his life points, Ghidorah destroys and banishes the other monsters on the field. The effect also removes Ghidorah itself, and Silent Swordsman LV7 returns to Yugi's field at 4,500 attack points. Bakura has only 200 life points and no monster left to protect him. Silent Swordsman attacks directly and wins. The duel matters because Yugi's victory cannot be credited to the Pharaoh. His cards express the skills the series has slowly developed in him. Marshmallow survives pressure. The silent monsters become stronger over time. Dora clears a position that appears too crowded to solve one card at a time. Yugi does not imitate the Pharaoh's deck. He wins with a strategy built around endurance, delayed growth, and one destructive reset. The ceremonial duel against Atem is the final and most complete test. Atem knows Yugi's cards because many of them once occupied the same deck. He knows how Yugi thinks because they shared thoughts for years. He has Dark Magician, the Egyptian gods, and the confidence of the King of Games. Yugi also knows that winning means saying goodbye. Every earlier Shadow game gave him a reason to fight for survival. This duel asks him to defeat the person he wants to keep beside him. Atem summons all 3 Egyptian gods in 2 turns. Yugi answers through the Magnet Warriors and Magnet Force. He brings out Valkyrian the Magna Warrior, divides it into Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, and causes Slifer's automatic attack to trigger against the newly summoned monsters. Atem's Mirror Force clears Yugi's field during the first attempt. Yugi uses Magnet Reverse to restore Valkyrian, separates the 3 Magnet Warriors again, and activates Magnet Force. Slifer's repeated blasts are redirected toward the gods until Obelisk, Slifer, and Ra are destroyed. Yugi removes all 3 Egyptian gods in 1 turn. Atem continues with Dark Magician Girl, and the cards Yugi has trusted throughout the series. Yugi summons Ghidorah, although Atem protects Dark Magician with Dark Illusion. The duel reaches its final exchange with Yugi's Silent Magician facing Atem's Dark Magician. Atem attempts to activate Monster Reborn and brings Slifer back for one last attack. Yugi had already placed his own Monster Reborn inside Gold Sarcophagus. In the anime's version of the card, the opponent cannot activate a card with the same name as the one sealed inside. Atem's Monster Reborn is stopped. Yugi understood that Atem would eventually return to the graveyard and reach for resurrection. Silent Magician gains power after Card of Sanctity fills the hands, defeats Dark Magician, and reduces Atem's life points to 0. Gold Sarcophagus is the perfect final move because Yugi wins by predicting the person who taught him how to duel. He defeats the Egyptian gods through a complicated interaction, survives Dark Magician, and still keeps one plan hidden until Atem makes his final decision. The sealed Monster Reborn also gives the move a meaning beyond its rule text. Yugi prevents Atem from returning once more. He accepts that the duel has to end and gives Atem permission to leave. Looking across these duels, Yugi's hardest opponents keep forcing him to win through a different target. Pegasus cannot be beaten until his information advantage is removed. Strings falls through his deck instead of his life points. Kaiba loses when his own cards and dragons strengthen Yugi's final monster. Noah loses to the combined decks of brothers and rivals he tried to divide. Marik survives because Yugi leaves room for him to reclaim his body. Raphael loses after recovering the monsters he had abandoned. Dartz requires an attack equal to infinity. Bakura is defeated by Yugi without the Pharaoh's help. Atem loses because Yugi knows him well enough to seal away the card he will need at the end. The series often describes Yugi through destiny and the heart of the cards. His hardest victories are far more specific than that description suggests. He watches how an opponent's strategy supports itself, finds the part that can be redirected, and changes the condition of the duel. By the ceremonial duel, Yugi can defeat raw power, predict the greatest duelist he knows, and make the one decision he spent the entire series hoping he would never have to make. He wins, and the victory finally leaves him standing alone.